and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 27 July 2021. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this discussion, we will cover a lot of interesting articles. Our discussion is divided in two videos. The first video is on the featured news of today, which is on India's cybersecurity capabilities. An important think tank based in UK has rated India as third tier institution in terms of India's cybersecurity capabilities. Out of 3 tiers, 1, 2, 3, it has placed India at third category list. Now, in this context, we will understand what are the details of this report specifically regards to India. After that, we will understand what is the need for cybersecurity space security in India. So, what is the need, and then what are the opportunities this space presents to us. So, this is the featured discussion, a holistic discussion about India's cybersecurity space. The second discussion, the second video, will be on rest of the articles, which are 1. This day in history on APJ Abdul Kalam, remembering him on this day. New snapshots. The 3 important update news for you today are 1. Government's agenda for safety of women, children and SC/STs. Now, the crimes are not reported. So, this is mainly on how the government is going to ensure the policing system reforms in this particular category, right? Extension of OBC Sub-Categorisation Commission. This is also called as the Rohini Commission. It was instituted in the year 2017. So, here are the updates about this commission. Now, third is Periodic Labour Survey Force Survey Report. Third is Periodic Labour Force Survey Report. So, we will discuss this report in this update article. Image of the day is on auroras from Jupitor. Terms and concept. The 4 terms and concept for you today are 1. Typhoon In Fa in China. Second is Agar Wood, right? So, we'll understand some details about this Agar Wood. Moon forming region around exoplanet. We'll understand what is exoplanet and how moon gets formed around this exoplanet. And the fourth is an update on indecent representation of women amendment bill. An update regarding the same. Right, these are the 4 terms we discussed today. Editorials of today. The first editorial is on the landmark economic reforms of 1991. It was 30 years back that 1991 LPG reforms happened in India. So, an update article on the same. The second editorial is on immigration bill, right? A new immigration bill that India is going to pass in the parliament. So, what are the components of the bill and what are its shortcomings? We'll discuss here. And the third is India and America Science and Technology Cooperation. What is the need of specifically science and technology cooperation will be discussed in this editorial, right? The case study of the day is about sacred groves, an important way to preserve nature amongst the tribal and the primitive communities of India, right? So, let us start this discussion. This day in history. This day in history is on APJ Abdul Kalam. It was on 27 July on the year 2015 when Abdul Kalam passed away, the ex-president of India. He was the 11th president of India, also called as the Missile Man of India. He had an important role to play in the integrated missile development program of the nation, right? So, he participated in DRDO and ISRO, Space Research Organization and Defense Research as well. Now, can you imagine why he participated in space research and defense research both, right? Now, during the time of 1960s and 1970s, India was developing its capability in space, right? So, we tried to develop satellites, right? Satellites. And we did actually develop good satellites, communication satellites, but we did not have launch vehicles. We did not have rockets to send into the space. And that is why we used French rockets, Ariane, and we also used Russian rockets, and we have started to use the rockets of various other countries as well, right? So, the delivery system was not there. Delivery system which could take the rockets to the space. We did have the communication satellite in place, but delivery system was not there. Similarly, we also could generate and create bombs, but delivery system was not there. So, delivery system, this rocket system is where the Missile Man actually worked, right? So, missiles, this delivery system is not only required for missiles, right? It is also required for space travel, right? And this is where he actually participated. So, that is why the capabilities of APJ Abdul Kalam, his efficiencies were utilized in both DRDO defense research and space research both, right? So, Missile Man of India. That is why Missile Man of India. We pay homage to him on the same day. New snapshot. The first snapshot is on government 13-point agenda for safety of women. 1, 2 is kids, and third is SC/ST community. So these 3 communities is what government is pointing at for the safety concerns. Now, during the times of pandemic, where work from home has gotten initiated, where school have gotten closed, and a lot of economy is based at home, online. There are two kinds of violence which are being perpetrated. One is violence against women at home spaces, so intimate partner violence, IPV, right? And the second one is the digital violence, right? The traditional system of violence that was happening against children, women, and the weaker sections of society, they have transformed the spaces in which they operate, right? So the tangible violence has actually converted into digital violence, right? So digital threats are being met, right? Abuses are being hurled online. So a lot of things are being hurled at especially women. How are kids relevant? Kids are relevant in terms of the pornography. So kid pornography, child pornography is not allowed, right? So in this space also a lot of development is required from the end of government, because during the times of digital economy, after COVID spread, this has also gotten initiated. Crimes against the children have also gotten initiated. So government needs to control this also, and this is where the 13-point agenda also comes into place. Government says that there must be mandatory online reporting of the sexual abuses, right, of pornographic material. There must be zero FIRs, right? And government must be fixing accountability of the police in all these respects, right? So first of all, reporting is very important. Reporting can be done at any police station, and that is what zero FIR means, right? First information report. Now, this is the first information that is transmitted to police in case of crimes, in case of major crimes, right? So earlier the system was that if the crime is committed in particular area A and the person belongs to area B, right? So, and the person is in area B right now, they cannot report the crime here. They will have to go to the place where crime was committed, and this actually delayed a lot of mechanism procedures, and this ensured that the crime scene also got spoiled, right? So there was delay in giving justice, and therefore zero FIR means wherever the person is, they can report the crime in that particular police station only. The police at the particular station will be liable to transmit this information to the required police station or in the required jurisdiction. So that is what is zero FIR called as, right? Now, here the police will be liable for quick action, right? Because the reports are presented online, because these FIRs are presented on the E-level, internet level. So that is why police will be compelled to act as quick as possible, right? And for that, what does the government need to do? It needs to raise awareness in the community, right? So in local languages, people need to be made aware that digital way of filing FIR is also possible, right? That they can actually use this FIR to ensure that their grievance is redressed, right? So cyber crimes can be reported digitally as well, right? This awareness needs to be spread. This is what government has spoken of, right? Why is the government focusing on this now? As I explained, it is all about digital scenario these days, right? We also discussed in today's feature about how India needs to protect its own cyberspace, right? So therefore, we need to understand that increased crimes are being reported online, right? Crimes against women, crimes against the marginalized communities as well. There has been an increase after lockdown, right? Now see, one thing is also important to note, that as the whole system becomes online, there will be more reporting of crimes, right? Earlier, the crime was not getting reported. It was happening, but it was not getting reported. So this is another aspect of it. But notwithstanding that, since crimes are happening and there's been an increase in number, therefore, the government needs to act at this, right? This is why this report has been presented, right? Now, we need to have fast track courts, and only the half the number of designated courts. Out of 1023 courts, only around 500-600 courts have been designated to fast track these kind of cases. So there has been a low conviction rate, right? So in cases of rapes, there's been a dismal, very, very poor conviction rate of less than 5%, right? So because of various issues, for example, forensics, right? The whole crime scene is not reported properly, right? There's a delay in the reporting of crime scene. Evidences are lost in the whole process, right? One-stop centers, right? Places where women can actually find solace. Now these are not functional in the most effective way. Gender-friendly police is not there. What about children? Do we have child protection home? Do we have a child protection friendly police? So these are questions that have to be asked, and this is what government is trying to address here, right? So poor implementation of all these laws. These are present in laws, but they are not being implemented at the real ground level, right? Also, there is a difficulty in registering cases, although there is e-filing available, right? Yet people do not report it. Why do people do not report it? Because of the stigma, because of fear of the society. Society will start questioning, right? So these are the issues, and this is where government is trying to spread awareness into the community, right? Also during the times of COVID pandemic, as I mentioned, during the lockdown period, there has been an increased trafficking of children, right? We will be presenting a snapshot on this and some editorials also on this, right? Government is trying to present a bill against trafficking, right? Illegal trafficking. So this is what this snapshot is about, an important snapshot for governance reforms in social sector domain. The second snapshot is on extension to the OBC subcategorization commission. This commission is also called as the Rohini Commission by the Judge Rohini. She is the one who is heading this commission. This commission was formed in 2017. Now, we must note that reservation to the OBC community, other backward classes community, was given after 1990s, right, where 27% reservation was allocated to them in the jobs, in central government jobs, right? And after 2006, there was reservation extended in educational field as well, in higher education as well, right? So admission in colleges, etc., this reservation was given to the OBC community. This OBC community was pegged at around 52% during the time of 1990s, 52% population of the whole country. This population survey was not carried out. This pegging was done on the population of 1931, right? Census of 1931, and this was the pegging that 52% population of OBC community would exist at 1990s, and on the basis of this 27% reservation was given to them. Now, how much valid was it at that time? We do not want to question that, but during these times, such a community representing 40 to 50% population of the whole country, can we target them with 27% reservation? Now, let me ask you some important questions. This community is existing throughout the whole terrain of India, sphere of India, right? They have different regional backgrounds. The geographical terrain at all the places are different. The languages spoken are different, right? The habits, the culture, the practice, all of them are different. So how can we give them a similar flat reservation, right? Maybe the community deserves a different treatment in Ladakh and a different treatment in Kutch area. It does differ in the kind of treatment it wants in the coastal areas. So this flat reservation policy is not all right. Also, there is a concept of creamy layer, right? So there is a community in OBC community itself which is taking the benefits of reservation all the time. So all the creamy layers could be excluded, and that is why this subcategorization was proposed, so that government could give its benefits, so that government could target its benefits to the particular vulnerable community, right? The actual backward classes. So this is why Rohini Commission was appointed, right? So the commission tries to have a scientific approach, right, by identifying these subclasses, the subclasses which are more vulnerable, subcaste communities, by creating a list, right? But the category is so huge, communities are so many, that this is a humongous task, and that is why there have been 11 number of extensions provided to this particular commission in providing its report. The committee has also given some interim reports. For example, it proposed that the community be divided in 4 categories, right? So category 1, 2, 3, 4 giving 2, 6, 9 and 10% reservation respectively. So this comes to 27% reservation in all. The committee also says that all the OBC data be digitized, so that effective and faster redressal of all the complaints can be done, right? OBC certificates procedure also can be digitalized through the whole mechanism, right? So this is what is the main idea, right? The main idea is to have more equitable distribution of opportunities by the government. Isn't it a fair idea? It is very much fair. But yesterday we discussed in an important snapshot that we need census data. We need census data for this commission to work on, right? This commission needs to have the census data. It cannot work on random data of the people, right? It needs to have a data of the people, the community, or the population in various terrains, and that is how we can work. So now this collaboration is between the government and this committee, right? That is why the committee is getting extensions repeatedly, right? So this is an update on Rohini Commission. Now, important thing about this commission is that this commission was established under Article 340 of the Constitution, right? It says that the President of India can actually appoint a commission. He can appoint a commission to investigate into the backward, educationally and socially backward community and classes, right? And make recommendations. This recommendation is passed on to the President, right? Who later tables it at the Parliament as well. And they also intimate the Parliament about the actions taken by the government in this particular sphere in the recommendations of this report. So this is what this update is about. Snapshot 3. Snapshot 3 is on periodic labor force survey, right? So this is the labor force survey of the country for the year 2019 and 2020. Now, do remember this report is presented for the period July 2019 to June 2020. So the actual impact of pandemic will not be present here. It will only be present in the last quarter. Last quarter means last 3 months after April, May and June. So these 3 months will be reflected here when the actual lockdown happened, right? Before that, economy was progressing. So the report says, the finding of this report is that the unemployment rate, it actually fell. Unemployment rate, not employment rate, unemployment rate fell. So there was an increase in employment overall, right, as compared to the previous years, right? The second aspect of this is that the urban unemployment more than doubled during lockdown, specifically during lockdown. So specifically during in the age group 15 to 29, you can imagine the impact was such that every third person was out of job here. So this is the impact of lockdown being presented in this particular report. Okay. The third is that the labor force participation rate, right, it fell. So labor force participation rate talks about the labor force participating in the economy, right? So the labor force participating by the total number of people who are eligible to work. So this is what is the labor force participation rate, right? So this is where we talk about an important thing that is called as the workforce and the labor force. So work is the working population, and labor is the total amount of labor available, male, female, in the age category 16 to 64, right? A lot of people demand jobs, but they don't get jobs. They do not get jobs. So they are not the workforce. Workforce are the people who demand job and they have a job in this particular age, right? Male and female. But labor are those people who are demanding jobs, but either they get jobs or they do not get jobs. They are unemployed, right? Now, there's another category in this age group 16 to 64. Those people who are not demanding jobs. So not demanding jobs, they are staying at home. Females after marriage in urban areas, that is happening. There are students who want to complete higher education, right? There are people who are working and they left their jobs out of their will, not out of compulsion, but out of will they are not working. So they are not included in the labor force, right? Only people who are willing to work and working, they are in the labor force. So labor force participation rate is labor force by total people in the age group 16 to 64, right? So this is what is labor force participation rate. This report also says that the lockdown hurt the poorest workforce the maximum, right? So especially the casual workers, the gig workers, informal workers, these were affected the most. The migrant workers, they were the most affected, and secondary sector was the most affected. So secondary sector represents manufacturing, mining, construction, electricity, water, production of services, right? Production of goods. Production of services is the tertiary sector, right? Tertiary sector. And the primary sector is agriculture and allied activities. So the proportion of manufacturing, right, mining, etc., the secondary sector, it fell in employment, and primary and tertiary, it rose. This is what the report also highlights. Okay, so this is a quick background of this report. This report, it is the third edition of this report, and before this report was presented, we had the unemployment surveys, which was conducted once in 5 years, and now this report comes every year. So isn't it good? It is actually good, and it is conducted by National Statistical Office, NSO, right? So this is a quick summary of the report. Now do note down these summary. Why? Because you will be using them in various answers, also in essays, also in lot of answers related to paper 2 and 3, economy, governance, paper 2 and 3, right? Okay, moving ahead. Image of the day. Image of the day is on Jupiter's auroras, right? We have known about Earth's auroras, right? So what are auroras? We will discuss about it quickly. This is Earth. Earth has got a magnetic field, right? It has magnetic field and it has got its magnetic influence as well. Now, sun also transmit radiations, heat waves, and solar radiations are passed, electromagnetic waves are passed. Now, sun is the place where a lot of reactions are happening, nuclear reactions are happening, right? Nuclear fusion reaction is happening, where small particles like hydrogen, helium, they are fusing together, they're combining together and releasing a lot of energy. There are times when suddenly a lot of energy is released because of a lot of reactions at certain places, and this is where sudden solar flares are also released. Now, these radiations are released and the space is so little. Now, the space between Earth and Sun is so little that the amount of solar waves received towards the Earth are a lot. What happens? This magnetic influence of the earth, right? This magnetic field, it actually prevents these rays from reaching the earth. If they reach earth, they will hurt us, they will affect us, they will affect the communication lines. But this magnetic field is placed in such a way that it helps us by securing us from these waves, the solar flares and the solar radiations, right? Harmful radiations. But during the poles, at the places where these magnetic field lines merge again at the pole areas, this is the place where the interaction between the solar wind and the magnetic field lines happens, and this is where these lights, these solar lights are produced. These are called as auroras. This is not only with Earth, this happens with other planets as well, other planets like Jupiter, etc., where there is magnetic field influence and solar flare also happening, right? Solar flare is happening for all the planets equally, but magnetic field is something special. So Jupiter also presents these auroras. Now auroras in the northern hemisphere, they are called as auroras borealis, and in the southern hemisphere they are called as aurora australis. That is why the word Australia for the continent Australia, right? Southern hemisphere. So this is what is the update about. Now this is where we can see Jupiter and these auroras in both the directions, northern and southern hemisphere. Terms and concept for today. The first one is Typhoon In Fa, where in China. So this is where this China typhoon is happening. What is a typhoon? It is nothing but a tropical cyclone. When the wind speed reaches a particular threshold, it actually becomes a typhoon or a tropical cyclone, right? So this image talks about hurricanes, then cyclones, tropical cyclones and typhoons. These are the different words for the same entity, right? So a typhoon is a rapidly rotating storm originating over a tropical ocean. So for a typhoon or tropical cyclone to happen, there are certain important conditions. For example, warming of the ocean areas, right? This is one important condition. So more than 26-degree temperature, it needs a spiral atmosphere where the wind can actually spiral upward, right? It does not need a subducting air zone. The air needs to rise and therefore it cannot actually subduct at this zone. It needs to rise. So these are certain important conditions which are required for a cyclone to form. So this is the low pressure area, right? A cyclone. So they actually get very violent and they can actually lead to storm surges and coastal flooding. So when the cyclones, they get intensified, they can actually spell water in the coastal areas as well. Imagine this is the coastal area of India, right? And cyclone is happening at this area. So it will actually put in water in the coastal sphere as well. So this is what it does, coastal flooding and storm surges, right? Please do remember, counterclockwise is the direction in which the storms happen in the northern hemisphere, and clockwise in southern hemisphere. This is for cyclones, right? Not for anticyclones. So counterclockwise, anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere because of Coriolis force, because of the way Earth is rotating. Agar Wood, important update about Agar Wood. What is Agar Wood? Agar Wood is the tree. This is the tree which is mainly grown in the northeastern part of India, also in certain countries like Bangladesh and Bhutan, right? So the main idea behind this tree is that this tree produces perfumes and incense. The worst part about understanding of this is that it is an overexploited tree, and now it has also been put in the list of critically endangered species. Critically endangered. Why? Because although this tree grows fast, but it is overexploited. It grows up to the height of 40 meters as well, right? It is overexploited, and that is why the news is that the government of Tripura has initiated a Tripura Agar Wood policy. So the idea is to double the plantation and production by 2025, so that exploitation of tree is reduced, so that its utilization is also met by the particular state. This tree is also an important tree in the northeast area, right? So this is what it is. Very important good thing about this tree is that this tree can grow in the areas with metallic and mineral pollution as well. So if it can grow in these areas, that means it can absorb a lot of dirt from the ecosystem, especially industrial dirt, and therefore it can grow and it can replenish, it can rejuvenate the ecosystem in industrially polluted areas also. So this is good thing about Agar Wood. Moon forming region around the exoplanet. Now this is an important update about space, right? So what is this? This update is about an exoplanet. What is an exoplanet? Any planet revolving around a different sun, not our solar system. A planet revolving around a sun other than the sun that we have, right? So that is called as an exoplanet. What have we found? The news is about finding moon forming region around an exoplanet, right? So let me give you an example. Just like Earth is revolving around sun and we have a moon, right? So we have understood of another planet which has a moon forming region, right? So we have understood that these small spaces, right, are the places where the actually moon of this exoplanet can form. We have understood about that, right? So this is the news. Now this planet is also named, this the sun is also named here. So the star name is PDS 70, right? And the exoplanet name is PDS 70C. See, this is called as 70C. Now there is something called as nebula. Nebula is the cloud of dust. Nebula is the cloud of dust around the particular planet, right? So it is also rotating and revolving very fast. It is a cloud of dust and gases, right? It solidifies with time, and therefore it later forms planets or satellites or moons. And this has been recorded by an important satellite. This satellite is based in Chile, right? This is called as ALMA, Atacama Large Millimeter Array, right? So this term is also important. We have two terms in this particular term and concept. So why is this satellite placed in Chile? Because this is the place where there is a desert. This Atacama desert is the driest desert in the world, and there is clear atmosphere above it, and that is why placing of these kind of astronomical observatory is very good, so that there is a clear visibility up to space, right? So this Chile Atacama desert is also popular for ALMA, right? So please do remember this. Fourth term and concept is about indecent representation of women amendment bill, right? So this bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha in 2012, and now it has been retracted by the government. Government has taken back the bill, right? So this bill was actually about penalizing those advertisements and publications and writing, painting, etc., which have indecent representation of women, right? This bill has been withdrawn by the government because the government says that there are IT rules, there are Cinematography Act, CBFC, Central Board of Film Certification, all of them also have the same norms, right? Similar norms. So why have another bill? If we have multiplicity of authorities in the same field, then working also becomes difficult, right? So let us place those organizations only which are important and necessary. So that is why this amendment bill has been withdrawn by the government, right? This is the update. Editorials of the day. The first editorial for today is on the landmark reforms of 1991. It has been 30 years now that these reforms were presented in the month of July 1991. So 30 years completed, and this is where there's a look back into what happened in this 30 year of reform, right? So the article suggests that there was Iraq-Kuwait war, and this is the context which gave a rise in oil prices, and India could not pay back the prices of oil. So there was a balance of payment crisis for India, and this is where India had less forex, and India had issues of repayment, and therefore this liquidity issue in which India could not repay back the prices of its imports, India had to devalue its currency so that India could have little more exports. India also had to pledge its own gold, right? So to various countries. So first in 1990 and then later 1991. But this is not sustainable. Pledging India's gold is not sustainable, and therefore India was compelled to liberalize its own economy, right? So economic system got liberalized. There was deregulation of industries, right? Licensing of all the industries. Suppose bread was getting manufactured, this was also licensed. Why not have private sector participate in that? Why not have private sector participate in communication network, etc.? Only barring the defense and important technologies, right? So India deregulated its whole sector. For example, banking, industries, all were deregulated. So there was liberalization in the economy, privatization and globalization. Also export import also got increased. So this article is a summary of how the growth happened in the 1990s. The second one is the emigration bill, a new bill which has been presented, which is going to get presented in the parliament, right? This is going to replace the Emigration Act of 1983. Now, in light of the COVID crisis, what we have understood is that a lot of people who went abroad, especially to the Middle East, they were exploited, right? There were deaths also because of unknown cause. There was a lot of exploitation of people, Indian people abroad, and that is why this new law has come into place, right? This Immigration Bill 2021, this bill has certain important features which will ensure that exploitation of Indians abroad does not happen, right? So first component of is that the people who are going abroad, so if these are the people who are going abroad, they contact various agencies, right? These agencies are actually linked to various industries in Saudi, in UAE, in other countries, right? So these agencies have got important liabilities. For example, they will have to conduct due diligence of these companies in which in which the people are actually getting placed, these workers are getting placed. Second, they also have to look into the causes of exploitation and unnatural death. So there is more liability on these agencies. They take a lot of money from these innocent people, right? From workers, from laborers, as simple as tailors, as simple as people who can act as drivers, right? Working at home and working in offices for menial jobs. So they go to these countries, but they get exploited. Now the agencies which actually transport them, the middle authorities, they have important liabilities here, right? So this is one. The procedure also has been streamlined, right? For example, people who are not 10th pass, they do not understand English, they do not understand Hindi also, they understand only the local language in which, in the place in which they have grown. So for those people, there has been more security norms so that they are not exploited. So there has been streamlining of their procedure, the way they get visas and go abroad, right? So this is an important component of this new bill. However, the bill is falling short of certain important things. It does not effectively address the human right concerns of those people going abroad and their families, right? Now it also does not address the exorbitant amount of fees which are charged by these agencies, right? So this is important. And the third, it has also initiated fine and penalty for these innocent people, for the innocent people who are going abroad, right? Because they're not aware of the laws and terms of the government. If by mistake they commit a mistake, right, and agencies also exploit them, these are the people who will lose their visas. These are the people who will have to come back to the country, and even their passport can be seized. So this is very this term of the government here, the bill is very, very strict. This is what the article speaks of, right? Now the article also speaks that there is no gender dimension. That means female laborers, female workers do not have a specific dimension in which welfare for them can be ensured. So this is what this editorial presents to us. The third editorial is a very good, interesting editorial about science and technology, right? Being the center of India-US relationship, right? Now this article says that India has an important influence in US. How? First of all, the US Congress has got support of the Indian people in America, right? The second thing, it says that American community has got a decent amount of Indian representation as well. So people in the local place and in the parliament also. So India has got a stronghold. And this third one is about US business leaders' prospect of India, right? They look at India as an important way where they can invest because India is a growing economy. So because of three things, right? India and US relationships can actually prosper. But in what field? Now, science and technology is the field in which they are saying this should prosper, because 21st century war, they say, is not about traditional wars. It is about wars based on science and technology. So this is where they recommend first having a 100-chair professorship, right? So professorship means important people, important entities, and both from America and India representing in this particular entity. So this is their first recommendation. They talk of funds, a joint fund for research and development, right? Also partnership between universities. Now whatever I'm speaking of, these are points worth noting, because this is how you will be able to frame an answer, right? So university cooperation, joint fund, right? A professorship, 100-chair professorship. This is what the article talks of. The article also talks of a policy of science and technology development for India and USA, right? These policies do exist for India, Israel, right? So they have to exist in the space of India, USA as well, right? And we need to have sector-wise research programs. For example, important sectors like agriculture, right? So America is developing itself. It can also associate with India to develop itself. So this is where all these policies will actually function in these domains, right? So this is what the article presents. The article says that India was supported by United States of America in United Nations Security Council permanent seat. They also initiated a civil nuclear agreement in 2008. So there is a lot of credibility between these countries, but this can only go to the next step if there is a science and technology cooperation between the two countries, right? India is growing, right? India is bound to grow, but the geopolitical presence opportunity will be grabbed through this kind of opportunity, right, which America is also presenting. And the article concludes by saying that the actual power of democracy will be reflected only when they share their technical know-how in the field of science and technology. So a good article. Case study of the day. Today's case study is on sacred groves. What are these sacred groves? Now these are the sacred spaces where tribals and primitive communities have respected. These are largely spaces where ecology is respected. So there is a place where there is tree planted and the locals, they They do not cut this space. They do not invade this place. They do not dirty this place. In fact, they worship this place, right? So there is ecological benefit of the same, right? And there is tribal rights, right? We understand that tribal actually can manage their own forest very well without even the presence of laws. Why? Because they have got their traditional sacred grove region, right? So not only in particular states, but in many states, Arunachal, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Karnataka, Jharkhand, right? Even festivals are celebrated to worship these sacred groves. So this is how the whole ecosystem gets preserved. Let me give you a very quick and good example of the same. Now, this is a celebration of Karma festival in Jharkhand, and this is a celebration of Sarhul festival again in Jharkhand, right? Now we see they are worshipping a tree here. We see the whole celebration is around this tree itself, right? So these are two important festivals of tribals in this area. Karma's festival is the festival celebrated during the time of harvest, right? Harvest of the crops, but the whole festival is celebrated around trees, right? Preserving trees. Then Sarhul festival is celebrated around the sal tree, right? So all these festivals are around these trees only. So this is how tribals and locals in many areas of the country try to preserve their ecological space. A good example that can be used in your answers in ecology, environment, right? Deep ecology management, and how governance also should learn from the tribal and the local cultures of the country, right? You can also remember these in maths, the following questions, right? So this is how your case study gets completed. Thanks for watching.